What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Endless TBR. My name is Christian, and this is my YouTube channel where I love to talk about books. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to click on this video, where I want to outline all of the books that I plan on reading in April of 2026. Now, I'm coming off the month of March, which was a really awesome month for me. I read so many great books, and I'm really excited for the stack that I have set aside for April as well. I did decide to keep the stack a little bit smaller, both in the size of books that I'm reading as well as the number of books that I'm reading, mostly because this is finals month and I have a big essay due for the class that I'm taking at the end of April. And when it comes to schoolwork, I love going to school, but I'm a terrible procrastinator. So, yeah, I know I'm going to be stressed out at the end of the month. So I'm trying to keep this month's stack a little bit smaller than usual, but I'm very excited to get into it nonetheless. So let's talk about some books. The first two books on this list are ones that were on my March TBR that I didn't quite get to. The first one I'm well underway, and that is Strange Weather by Joe Hill. This is a collection of 4 different novellas written by him. I am almost at the end of the first one, and it has been wonderful so far. It's been great to get back into some Joe Hill short form literature. I loved his 20th Century Ghosts short story collection, and so far the first novella has been awesome. He's just so easy to read. I love his writing style so much, and I'm really excited to get into the other 3 stories that are in this collection. The other book that I didn't quite get to was Dune House Atreides, and this is one that I definitely have to lock in for this month because one of my biggest goals, or I'd say probably my biggest goal for 2026, is to read all the Dune books, including the Brian Herbert ones. I'm off to a pretty weak start. I knew from the beginning of the year that I was going to have to read probably multiple Dune books a month to meet that goal, and so far that has not been the case. So House Atreides is one I'm going to really have to get into, but I'm excited to get into nonetheless, so I can finish the rest of the books in this trilogy and continue to move that goal along. So that is Dune House Atreides. And then we have book 2 in a series that I started last month, which is the Children of the Red King series. I read Midnight for Charlie Bone as my nostalgia pick for March. And in this month, I am going to read Charlie Bone and the Time Twister, book number 2 in this series of 8. I'm not going to count the Time Twister as my nostalgia pick for the month, though, mostly because I really don't remember too much about this series beyond the first book. I feel very confident that I did read at least books 2 and 3 in this series, but I don't remember what happened, so I don't have that sense of nostalgia that's usually one of the criteria for counting it as a nostalgia pick. So I am just reading this as a continuation of the series. I didn't love the first one very much, not nearly as much as I remember loving it as a kid. And so I don't know if I'll get around to reading more than one of these books per month, unless I just absolutely start to fall in love with them. I think I'm going to try to do like a one a month type of thing. But who knows? Maybe I'll really like this one and want to keep it going and jump into the third one. But as of right now, I'm just going to stick to one. So that is Charlie Bone and the Time Twister. The next book that I have planned is The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown. This is book 3 of the Robert Langdon trilogy, or Robert Langdon series. It's much more than a trilogy now. But I read Angels and Demons and The Da Vinci Code earlier in this year. And so I just want to keep that momentum going. And I'm going to jump into the third one here. I've gone back and forth with my memory on this book. I feel like I started this one, but I never finished it. I remember a few months ago I was talking about it and I was like, yeah, I've definitely read this book. But as I was sitting back and thinking about it, I don't really remember anything about what happened in this story. So I'm pretty sure it was one of those ones I started, I never finished. I certainly don't have the same sense of nostalgia for this book that I do for Angels and Demons and the Da Vinci Code, which I clearly remembered reading when I was in high school. And so I'm excited to get into this one. I'm sure it's probably going to be like starting from a blank slate. Maybe once I start the story, I'll start to be like, oh yeah, I remember. Okay, I did read some of this book, but I'm pretty sure I didn't finish this one. So that is The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown. Excited to get into that one. The next book is going to be my nostalgia pick for the month, and this one's a little different than other nostalgia picks that I've chosen. This one is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I think a lot of people are familiar with this book and this story, but the reason why this one is a little different from other nostalgia picks of mine is all of the other nostalgia picks I've chosen on this channel so far have been books that I read in high school or earlier. This book I read in 2018, and I remember that because I read it right before the movie came out. I do that a lot when there's a movie that's coming out that I'm interested in. I find out it's based off of a book. I try to read the book as quickly as possible before I go to see the movie because I like to do that. And so I remember reading this one in 2018, which would have put me around age 23, I think, would have been my senior year in college. So this came a lot later in my life than other nostalgia reads, but I do have a lot of fond memories of reading this book, and so I'm excited to jump into it and see how it is upon a second read. So that is Ready Player One. And then the final physical book I have in my TBR for this month is going to be my book club's book of the month. This month it was my turn to pick, and so I chose Sundial by Catriona Ward. This is a book that I've had on my bookshelf for quite a few months, and I decided it would be a good time to finally get into it. I've read one other book by Catriona Ward. It was called Little Eve. And I didn't love the book, but I do remember loving Catriona Ward's writing style. She was really great at building tension and writing these just like dreary, depressing atmospheres and these characters that were just horrendously disgusting. And so I'm excited to get into this one. I don't know what it is about, but it was on the discount section of my local Books a Million, and I decided to grab it because I wanted to give her another try and figured this would be a fun month to choose this as my book club book, especially because this is not a very long book, so it fits in well with my desire to kind of keep April a little smaller than usual. So that is Sundial. And then I have three audiobooks planned for this month. The first audiobook, and one that I just started listening to this morning, is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I've been planning on reading this one for a very long time. I've heard amazing things about it from pretty much every person that has left a review for this book on Fable, as well as some of my friends who have read it as well. So I'm really excited to get into it. I was a big iCarly fan back when I was in like middle school and high school. So Jeanette McCurdy was on my TV screen a lot. And this is a pretty short audiobook. It's only 6 hours long. So I feel confident that I'll be able to knock it out in just a couple of days. But excited to get into this one. And with a name like I'm Glad My Mom Died, very provocative, and I'm interested to see where that one goes. So that is my first of three. My second audiobook that I have downloaded and ready to go is a book that I've already read twice, and it's one of my favorite books of all time, and that is Dune by Frank Herbert, the OG. I've talked about that book a ton on this channel, but it's basically the book that got me into reading. I have a physical copy of it. I read that physical copy twice back to back in 2024, and I was just scrolling through my Libby app and I saw it was on there. It was ready to download. And I thought, I've never listened to the audiobook version of this. And something just came over me, and I was like, I'm going to read this, or I'm going to listen to this in April. So I'm going to be giving Dune my third read through and my first time listening to an audiobook form. So really excited for that one. That is the opposite of Jeanette McCurdy's book. That is like a 27-hour audiobook. So I think that one will take me throughout most of April to get through. But then I have a third one ready. In 2 weeks, it'll become available for me. And that is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I have never read or listened to a Grady Hendrix book before, but as part of my goals for 2026, he was one of the authors that I at least wanted to check out at least one book by this month, just because I see his name all over the horror scene and I've never experienced anything by him. Nobody I know has read anything by him, so I'm really going into this one blind. I don't know what to expect. But that was one of the books that I saw on the Libby app. It's one of his more highly rated books, and so I decided to put it on hold a couple months ago. And so it says in 2 weeks it'll become available for me. I figure that'll be good timing for right around when I should finish that Dune audiobook. So those are the three audiobooks that I have planned for April of 2026, bringing me to a total of 9 books that I am going to try to get through in this month. So that is my TBR for April of 2026. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of those books or what books you are planning on reading in this month. And thank you so much for checking out this video. My name is Christian. This is the Endless TBR, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace.